Hello there.
Welcome back to the Pure Steel Podcast, everybody. I am your host, Louis P. Schreier, and as always, we have an awesome show lined up for you. And as the last couple show was, here is my co-host, Bryce Ripley.
Here we go.
We have an awesome show lined up for you guys. I got to do a little tagline, and this show is Pure Steel and Sex Appeal. Nailed it. Anyways, awesome show tonight. The show is kindly supported by Lit Beard Company. You guys get a second, go over to litbeardcompany.com, get yourself some fabulous oils and beard products and t-shirts, everything else. They got everything. Anthony does a great job. He has a really cool. He has a comb out, like a hairbrush. I really want to get it just because it says Lit on it. Love it. What's new with you, Rip? It's been a couple days.
Oh man, I'm fighting allergies, man. I tell you, today I had such a head congestion, and then I went to the VA and I tested negative for COVID. I have a coworker. Her husband has leukemia, unfortunately, so I got to be careful with that. So I didn't want to be in the office if that was the case, but it was negative. So I think it's just Claritin and drinking water. But unfortunately, I decided a fine Pilsner beer would be better.
Hey, pork chop in a can.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of NFL news really this week. Let's touch on a couple things. Looks like the MLB kicked off in Seoul, South Korea.
Yeah, why did they do that, by the way?
I think it's
because of Ohtani?
Well, I think it's because they have a real breadbasket of ethnicity on the team. Yeah, they got the two Asian pitchers that are multi-million-dollar pitchers and stuff like that. I think it just came down to spreading what's already there. You know what I mean? 'Cause I think they should be doing these games, abroad.
Well, they should do some in the Dominican Republic.
That's what I was just going to say. I think they should really try to hammer in on the Latin America and all that stuff.
Those kids are hitting pea gravel with sticks, man. Like that's how they learn how to hit.
Yeah.
Those are the communities that the MLB could really affect financially and build it up.
I agree with that. But yeah, we have a guest tonight, man. This is his third time on the show. Every time he comes on, I get more blown away by this man. Definitely a guy who piques my interest in the paranormal every time I talk to him. And just probably one of the easiest people to talk to on the planet, period. Little hint there in the bottom. But tonight we have Carl Johnson coming on. And like I said, I just so what happens to me is I get in these rabbit holes where I just go on binges of paranormal shows. And I just see Carl on Overnight, which is a YouTube series. Elton Cassie and I can't remember the other guy's name. It's Elton Cassie's show, and he has his buddies come on. He's friends with Matt Rife, the comedian. Everybody knows who Matt Rife is. He's the most overly handsome human being on the planet.
Well, he blew up. The girls like him for sure.
Yeah. And well, Matt Rife, obviously a part of that. And obviously I heard about his show through Joe Rogan. He was on Rogan's podcast talking about his experiences at, Round Top Farm, which went on to become known as the Conjuring House. And obviously, we are friends with the expert of the Conjuring House. So I was like, I'll check this episode out. And then there he is, Brad Pitt of Paranormal, Carl Johnson sitting there talking, on the show with these guys. I was like, it's hilarious because I've had Carl on my show twice. And you see, obviously the respect he gains through everybody in the paranormal, in the paranormal world. This guy's amazing. So put the show ticker on. Just bring in the legend.
There he is.
How's it going today, Carl?
You there? Hi there. Let's see how audio's going because Okay, except that I have the echo. What I say is being repeated back to me, and that's because there's an extra channel open. I don't know how we can remedy that. I mean, if you don't hear it, I can deal with it.
I don't hear it. Let me try something really quick.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
like
better?
there's an extra channel open and it's repeating itself.
Is
And
that
now it's
is that
better.
better now? Okay, because I can't.
That is much
I just
better.
see
Yes.
there's two on there. Okay, I just see there's two on there, but yeah, I just see
Well,
there's
if you
two
know,
on there. I started reading comments, and yeah, there's two, and I should have closed one, and I didn't. Yeah, that's my fault. I'll take the blame.
sometimes when we're discussing this particular subject, you do tend to get a visitor. It's like an extra microphone opens up and you get an echo. You say, well, there's nobody else to speak out. And then it goes away after a while, or it could come back. And it's kind of borderline mysterious.
This happened with me before. Last time, or 2 times ago now, when Carl was on, we were, talking about emails that Carl sent me, and he was like, "Yeah, in the email I sent you have a picture of a demon." And I literally left this picture up for too long on my computer, and stuff started moving in my basement.
Oh my God!
So,
That's and I do mean that. Oh my God!
yeah.
Isn't that something?
And
They're very freaky looking.
Well, you told me immediately to delete it and say a prayer, and then I deleted it, said a prayer, and I haven't had any issues since. So that I know.
Okay,
maybe
that's why you quit. That's why you quit no demon pictures,
Yes.
Because it's strange, we can joke about it, but it does mess up things internally with the studio broadcast. And like you said, you had things happening at home after we showed those. And demonic spirits are very, I don't know if they're electronic savvy, but they tend to travel through electric currents. They can find you. It's like the signal is broadcast. They can find the trail of that broadcast. How they do it, why they do it, I guess we can probably surmise, but they want to enter. Like when they see enter broadcast studio, they take that as a literal invitation.
It's like,
I don't think the human brain can even fathom what they can do. Honestly, as far as everything in the physical realm and what they can do, I don't think that we can even fathom.
See, from my teachings from Carl, like what I read and heard from him and Keith, is something I really do take to heart. It's not that every inhuman spirit is demonic. It's just that the demonic is demonic, and inhuman spirits that never walked this planet are a different type of being. Is that correct, Carl?
Well, yes, it's correct as far as we can guess. We can make an educated guess. There are spirits that are just seem to be created without bodies. They don't have an intent to inhabit a body. There are some that have an agenda and they're malicious. And for lack of a scientific nomenclature, we call them the demons. And they live up to that name usually. I mean, demon didn't originally have a connotation. It was demon meant kind of like a spirit that's assigned to a person, a guardian spirit, and a messenger, like an angel. That name became associated with malevolent spirits, and we can't get away from it. We say demon, it resonates. You get kind of a shiver saying, I still do. And you see what things they can do, little hints that there's something more that meets the eye, that it's not just all imagined. That you showed that picture, displayed it you just had it up for a few seconds because I had a prize. You kind of disturbing. Look, you might not want it up for too long, and people were oohing and eyeing. Or deleting it and getting it off, and things were moving around in your home. And finally, you took my advice, like just get rid of it, just delete it as best you can. And I've analyzed it, and it's looking at it either. Okay, may have to plug in my phone. I'll try it without the cord because my battery had run low. I want you to be able to see me too. Yeah. Hello. Oh, I kind of like this lighting though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good lighting for you. I'm telling you, and Keith are the.
It is good to be back.
Go ahead, Carl. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all right. I'll just leading myself into this interview. Yeah, I was hoping to go over and see Keith, but he said they were having dinner later than usual. So, he'd probably be getting the dinner right when I arrived. So,
Yeah.
we can get him next time. I do like to speak with my brother. Like we play off each other. We have a banter going. So it's always fun. And Keith is as we used to call him in the TAPS days when we were members of the Atlantic Paranormal Society. He was known as the walking encyclopedia. I think he was the first one to be called that. Several people have since then, but he just has this plethora of knowledge, this vast reservoir of knowledge that he can call on, and he has biblical teaching too. I do have some, but his is fresher than mine. So yeah, it's always fun to do an interview with my brother Keith.
Yeah,
especially when we try to talk over each
definitely
other.
line that up in the future. I'd definitely be interested in that.
Please do, yes.
So since the last time we talked, it relaunched Ghost Hunters on Discovery. And have you seen it? And is it weird not seeing Grant Wilson a part of it?
Oh, I haven't watched the show so long, really. I've watched it since I was involved in it. My brother was involved in it, but I just haven't caught it in some years now. It's not. I found it very formulaic. I mean, it's the same basic thing over and over again with a different cast of people. So I didn't need watching it. But I do miss the chemistry we all had together because that's what the network Pilgrim Films, who created Ghost Hunters, they were trying to have a family value to it. Like, these are people we know, invite them into your home. But then it became more about, just straight investigation and all that. But I do there's benefit to that too. But I miss the way it used to be with the original cast of Jason and Grant, Steve Gonzalez and myself and my brother. And, and if Brian, oh yes, the Brian days. Yeah. Brian fell into many traps. Sometimes literally falling downstairs and things. Yeah. It was kind of a fun thing back then.
See, that
we were new at it. We didn't know where we were going to get to.
Yeah, that was such a big show for me as a kid. That was like one of my favorite shows, period. And then, And then I kind of grew up a little bit, and I kind of fell towards the Ghost Adventure side of it. I thought Zach Bagans' style of investigation was so much more fun to, watch, because he's such a, how he presents himself on TV is such a, exciting way to go about it. But then he just kind of like meet people like you, and then Jason Bertman, who's been on this show with me. Not every single house there's a demon, so there's a lot of like Hollywoodized stuff with that show too, where I'm not a huge fan of anymore. But
well, the demon thing, that's of course that gets overused because hauntings typically are scary. If somebody has to live with that kind of phenomenon going in their house, objects moving, voices, disembodied voices they hear, it's scary. Therefore,
he's on his phone, so you got to bear with him.
With it as best you can, but if somebody lives with it, that's scary business. So they're going to jump to the demonic conclusion. And it's not a conclusion at all. And unfortunately, many teams go in and pronounce it as a demonic haunting, when it may not be. Just a haunting is a scary thing because it's unpredictability. That's why it's scary, because you don't know what's going to strike next, when it's going to strike, when something's going to happen, and it's downright eerie.
So
I get disappointed when I can explain it.
We got a question from our live stream. Sean asks, "What is the most haunted house you've been in?"
Jeepers Crow. That would be. I know a couple that I'm supposed to say, and they all have their own charm if they're genuine haunt. But I would say the house on Hilltop Road, and that was in Coventry, Rhode Island. That was a case I was addressing in the years 2007 and 2008. That was, I would say that have to be the most haunted. As far as the proliferate activity, a lot of things happening there in rapid succession. We would be there. In fact, I don't think we had a time when our team went there we didn't have some kind of activity. And often it was pronounced activity. It was a house where you would be sitting at the the kitchen table discussing what had been happening in the house, and you'd see crockery fly across the room in front of you. Might sometimes right in front of your face. Dishes were smashing, chairs were moving. The time a chair I was sitting in moved back across the living room floor. So, but that was happening a lot there. You know about paranormal investigation. Usually, when somebody calls you in to evaluate their home activity, they say, "Oh, you know, so much was happening before you guys came here. Now it's quiet. All hell broke loose after you left. My crucifix was pulled off my neck." But these things were happening while we were there, watching it, listening, and recording it. So, yeah, dishes are smashing audibly. It got pretty scary being in there. You didn't know what was going to happen next, which is what makes it so fascinating. And we were at that case for 4 months. It was never resolved. Usually these things can, at least what you see presented on the television shows, you see a happy ending. The case is somewhat resolved. People are calm. The spirit presence moves on to some degree. And with this house, it just didn't go away. And they weren't really into taking advice, the family we were addressing their haunting. They would not do what we asked them to do. You know, like don't talk about it too much. Don't obsess about the haunting. Divest yourself of the Ouija boards. I don't really have a personal problem with Ouija boards or divining rods, but we told because of what was going on, it was bothering them so much. You just get all your paraphernalia. It just seems to be bringing things in, and you seem to be transfixed with this haunting. And just try. It's hard advice, but try not to pay such attention to it. Stop feeding it. And yet they would continually talk about it and dread it. And, you know, it brought them a lot of excitement into their home.
Carl, I got a quick question. Have you ever messed with a Ouija board? Have you ever done it yourself? I mean, when and what do you think about it overall?
Gee, what's the correct answer to that? Correct answer is no. They're an open door. Stay away from them. Yeah. No, I have often experimented with Ouija boards. You know, I've done that. I don't have one now, but I didn't throw it away or anything.
Right.
They can be problematic because they're a tool. They're a focus. They give you they give a physicality to paranormal activity. You've got something to focus on. So they're usually ill-advised, you know, because they open up a door. Oh, I'm going to have to plug in my phone again because the screen's going dark, and we want to be able to see each other.
Yeah.
But I don't crusade against them. They don't scare me. If properly used or not used, they're not going to create a problem.
Right.
The Ouija boards became only 5% power. I'm glad I plugged it. Because I'd be talking to you and not know my screen went off. They got a reputation with the release of the novel and the movie The Exorcist, located on a real life case, and the subject, the boy, did have a spirit board, Ouija board, and I just don't find them that's real. There's going to be a real source of danger. They're innocuous. They're just a toy. Unless somebody gets obsessed with it and starts asking all kinds of questions and asking advice, life's advice, I just never took them that seriously.
Right.
Interlude when I was a teenager, my sister and I were playing with them quite a while. I ghost in my parents' house, and everybody in the house has experienced the spirit, this haunting. And I happened to see her, the female form. I saw her 4 times, quite clearly. And I don't know if it had any relation to the Ouija.
It wasn't a shadow form. It was it was a clear figure. Hello.
He's on his phone.
Yeah.
And I think he's using Wi-Fi, obviously. He'll probably be back here in a second. We just got to bear with it.
As a parent at the time, and I realized this correlating the.
Louis, I think we should try again another time.
I think we're gonna see if we can get.
Yeah, technical difficulties.
Yeah.
That's okay.
If he comes back on, we'll see if we can catch him for a couple more moments.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about with this guy, so we need a better connection. I'll say that. So
yeah.
we need to really tell him we need to sit down and talk with this guy and get it squared away with that. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people that have questions in the comments. So
yeah, he's been a hit every time.
Yeah.
People
are fascinated with it. It needs to be we need a good connection, and let's ask and answer some questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make a special one of it.
I'm curious if I could just get audio. Maybe it's too much with the video and that with the phone.
It might be. What is that? DQ and Sean.
Yeah.
DQ and Sean. Yeah. I don't know. Let's get a better connection. We'll try it another time, Louis.
Yeah.
As far as I want to talk about the Milwaukee Brewers. So they start on Thursday, correct?
Yes. Yeah. This upcoming Thursday.
So why did the MLB? So the MLB decided to have their opening days in Seoul, Korea, right?
Yep.
And then the actual American opening day is Wednesday?
Yes. I believe so. I need to look it up.
Why? What's the deal with that?
So I think they're trying to go abroad with a lot of stuff. Try to grow the sport because obviously in America, baseball's dying very, very fast. So I think they're trying to open up different pathways to open the door more of a worldwide thing than just centrally, broadcasted in America. So I think that's probably
you can spread the brand and that's fine. I understand that, but you need to make a salary cap to make everything relevant. If you're going to make a lot of money, it needs to be a salary cap to where everybody has an even playing field, no matter where you are. It needs to be a salary cap, dude.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, people are going to lose interest, and you've already seen it. Like that's why they're doing this because Ohtani, first baseman Freddie Freeman, all those guys go to LA. They go to the Cubs. They go to the Mets. Like the fan base is not the problem, dude. The problem is the salary cap.
Yeah.
And I know I talked to your brother about it, and he said, "Oh, it's not the salary cap. Teams win without us," And I get that, but it needs to be an even playing field to get every player that you want to do it strategically.
Yep. But let's try Carl one more time. He's back in here, and then
okay, perfect.
There he is.
There he is.
Hi there. Can't guarantee it's going to last.
Yeah. I was going to say, maybe if it goes out again, let's just put it in the holster until we get both you and Keith.
Yeah. I think it's a game plan. Let's talk for a while, see what we can manage. We can get through the hour. If not, I'd be glad to come back on, Keith.
Absolutely.
Can pick up where we left off.
Yeah, I can't remember where we left off. We had another question come through here, two of them. The first
we left off about 8 minutes ago. So we were talking about the haunting in my parents' house, where I was first ushered into the world of paranormal.
Yeah. We're gonna skip ahead from there. So we had two other questions pop up. The first one was, when are you going to come investigate the Sheboygan Asylum with Darren and Louie?
Louie. I would like to do that. I haven't had that chance. If we start talking about it, these tend to get buried. We mean to do it. Then a few months later, we realize, hey, we need to get out there to Sheboygan. We lost touch with them. And if somebody keeps reminding me and makes it an event, like something we're really looking forward to, if we stay in touch, then then that probably will happen.
Yeah, and then the next question we had was, have you ever investigated a house a serial killer lived in, and and would perform crimes at?
I have not. I haven't been in a house. I've been in a house where there were mysterious deaths and a murder, but I have not been in a house that was like so rampant, like a serial killer was in residence there. I know, unless you want to count the Lizzie Borden case, Lizzie Borden in Fall River, Massachusetts. That she was a serial killer. It just didn't her parents if it was her that did it.
Yeah.
And where her mother, Abby Borden, was hacked to death. I laid down in that spot. The forensic photograph, the police photograph shows it, where she was in a crouching position after she'd been bludgeoned to death, axed. And I laid down there just to get the feel, and it was darn. Oh, something went through. I don't even know if it was even paranormal or just very unsettling. But yeah, that's a murder house I went to. There were a couple of mysterious deaths associated with the house in Harrisville, they now called the Conjuring House. But as far as a serial killer, wait a minute. I got to go back a ways. There was something. And this was Freetown State Forest back in 2010. And I was at a Paracon investigation there, which was a really good experience. But there were the Carl Drew murders in Bedford Falls, Massachusetts. And in Freetown State Forest, which is notoriously haunted, as part of the Bridgewater Triangle, like it's triangle. And there was a satanic cult operating in this cabin. The cabin, last I was in Freetown, the cabin was still standing there. And I stood where somebody would be head. It's an awful feeling to know it was real. But I stayed objective. I don't know how much was because there was a haunting there and I knew about it, or how much was real residue that I was feeling. But there was a satanic cult operating in Bedford Falls, Massachusetts in the 1980s. That's not so long ago, the early to mid 1980s. And the head of their coven was Carl Drew. Carl Drew is still incarcerated. He's life sentence. He's doing. Well, I heard he was doing a lot better once he was incarcerated.
Carl, have you ever been overseas?
Have I what to?
Have you ever been overseas to like Auschwitz or anything like that?
Oh, the furthest I've been is I've been to Puerto Rico. I lived in Puerto Rico for 4 months, and whatever Spanish I can speak now goes way back to that time. I've been to Puerto Rico. I've been to Canada twice, and I've been to quite a few states. With the Atlantic Paranormal Society and ghost hunters and traveling. And I have been to Ohio several times, and Indiana, like perhaps a dozen. And I've always gone to a haunted site when I visit these places. However, I am working on getting over to, how about this for exotic, going to Indonesia.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Capital Jakarta, Indonesia, because I know someone, I'm very close to somebody who resides in Indonesia. She is a piano teacher and a concert pianist. She's also a movie actress, has been in 15 movies to date. She's a very fascinating person. Her name is, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say her name. Maybe it'll bring things in, because she does have spirits that she sees. She's gifted. Yeah. Well, I'll tell her name is Young Triani Sardi, and she's my associate over there. I'm very close to her. We have not met in person, but I'm so looking forward to. And I wish to explore Indonesian mysticism. It's my theory and actually my observation that what is not real here can be real in another place, like Occidental Western. The impossible does happen over there in Indonesia and other places, India. These, to us, remote locations, sometimes the downright impossible does happen. People can levitate, spirits.
Carl, I think people get trapped in scientific human brain knowledge versus what can really happen. Like that.
Oh yeah, because we say it's impossible, it can't be, and then it happens. Yeah. I'm continually amazed by what can and does happen.
Exactly.
But it shouldn't. It shouldn't
be. It drives me nuts that people think that everything that happens should be psychologically evaluated and logical, that there's no possibility for any other kind of realm or activity that could happen. You know what I mean? Like that the human.
Well, it makes people's world seem safer. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe, and that's what
What
it
is not understood is potentially dangerous and scary. Yeah. So it makes people feel more sound and secure if they say, "Oh, I can't be." No, they're not ghosts in my world. Come on, there's no such thing. It's comforting to them if they deny it,
I think that's
because it opens up a whole new spectrum of reality.
Yeah, it's a comforting thing. It's control and comfort, without the possibility of. And you know how people are. They feel like they're kind of, if they go out in that rabbit hole, if you will, they feel like they're crazy.
Excuse me a moment. No, I'm on the radio.
Yeah,
I'm on the radio right now.
yeah.
David Cicilline. Yeah.
He was the governor, right?
Yeah, he was the mayor.
The mayor.
Okay.
On the radio, professionals, dude.
Yeah, just push that out of the way.
We're on the AM 1290.
Sorry, yeah, that was a little interruption. Somebody wanted to know, the landlady wanted to know who the mayor of Providence used to be, and then she said he wasn't governor, so we had to go through that.
There we go.
David Cicilline. Fortunately, I had the answer. She consulted me. Yeah, that was an easy question. But that's why I'm so fascinated with Indonesian mysticism now, and I just really do want to get over there and explore and see some of the impossible. I have seen the impossible before, and it's a life-altering experience. And I can only quote Mo Howard of the Three Stooges when I encounter the impossible. This just can't be. Sometimes, oh yeah, the classic Three Stooges. This just can't be.
Yeah. So last time we were on, we talked about. We started talking about the origins of demons. I'd like to get into that a little bit more. Could you enlighten our viewers like what the actual origins of demonology is, and what?
By my perspective, I can tell what standard lore of demon origin is, and it depends. It's a cultural thing. I can speak mostly about Christian Judaic origins of demons, how they were thought to come to be. There was a great revolt, celestial revolt in heaven, where the devil uprose against the power of God and the heavenly host. Satan was envious. Well, he started off as the bright angel Lucifer, and he rebelled, was prideful. For his rebellion, he was cast out of heaven and sent down into the nether regions, which could be called hell, but some people will say hell was made for humans. And but he was sent down to the nether regions, and then he became Satan, the adversary. And the angels that rebelled with him, 1/3 of the heavenly host, and of course we don't know what the number is, but 1/3 of the heavenly host that rebelled with the devil, we became the devil. It was cast down, they went with him, and they became the demons. Another theory is that there was a great race of giants on the earth. They get this from the Apocrypha of the Bible, the book of Enoch, that there were, and it is mentioned in Genesis, there were the Nephilim, which means the fallen one, or fallen ones. It's plural, it's Nephilim. And angels came down and found the sons, or the daughters of men, I should say, in this case. They found the daughters of men fair, and the angels mated with human women. And this produced a race of monstrous giants. Now, they were at war with the human populace. When they were subdued and slaughtered and vanquished, their blood spilled into the earth, and the vapors that rose from that blood, that spilled blood of the Nephilim, became the demons. That's a very interesting folk tale. I see it as a folk tale. So you got the war in heaven, and the bad angels are cast down along with the devil, and that's where we get demons. Now that is the Christian Judaic story that many demonologists do accept. Other cultures have different origins of demons. and they were usually associated. The demons were usually associated in olden days, millennia ago, with plagues, things that people really had to contend with, famines, droughts, plagues. There were always demons associated with these natural forces.
Yeah, so
My own theory.
I guess it'd be like the visual presence of evil with death of humans. You think that's how it kind of how it matches up 1-to-1 there between demonic and sickness and all that stuff.
Well, it does make for a cogent theory of what causes. We always want an explanation for why things go wrong, and they were associated with demons because they were. Again, I use that word inconvenient. The demons were inconvenient, and they, because plagues, famines, storms, always associated with demons. They are supremely inconvenient to us. So they had to have a devil associated with them or a demon associated with them. My own theory is that demons do not predate the human race, that they actually are inextricably intermeshed with human beings, that they are associated with us, that they more or less come from us. They come from the dark regions of our human psyches, and they take on, I'm not saying they're imaginal, they take on lives of their own. And that's where we get the demons. They spring from the human subconscious.
Carl,
and then they their own race. Sure.
I got a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Now that we're
please do. I'll go on.
Do you believe how in houses people have mentioned they hear the door close or a cupboard close, and do you believe that the souls leave memory footprints in their houses or where they've domesticated, and then they passed on, but yet their energy is still in the home that they're in?
Stone tape theory.
Indeed, I do, because that you can tie that into quantum speculation. That definitely the human beings broadcast a certain resonance, and we leave our imprint behind. That's why people who are especially psychically gifted persons will feel very much ill at ease if they go in a house where there's been a tragedy, where there's been a murder, a suicide. Some people pick up on that in a very direct way. I think spirits are the imprints of once living people.
Yeah.
And if the imprint is strong enough, then they take on that own evanescent life of their own. And they're responsive. I think they do. I think we do. And it's actually, I advance the theory by saying in the subway of a building, of a home, into the wood, into the plaster, the stone, there are actually imprints made. And they can, under special conditions, the tragedies or even the personalities of the people that are replayed. And there we have our ghost, and they can interact with us.
And that's what I think it is. I really say a husband and wife are here, and the wife is cooking or baking cookies, and all of a sudden you hear the oven close, and that was always the sound that happened with that energy. I think with that energy, I think those things happen. I really believe that. Or the same foot creaks that you hear or whatever, I think that's just, maybe it's energy trying to relive, or I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it becomes encoded. Yeah, it's life, and yet it's not. It's more artificial life. It's the resonance, the residue of life. Right. And those are what we would call the residuals.
Residuals.
When I was first studying paranormal exploration and parapsychology in particular, we were taught and believed that there were basically 4 types of hauntings. There were the intelligent, interactive haunting, the residual, which is just a replay and they're not aware of us, and there were inhumans, which are the demonic. They have an agenda against us, against a living human being. They're negative. And then there were the poltergeists, which seem to be their own category. They seem to be created by living persons. So you had those 4 basic types of haunting. but I see there are many crossovers in these. I've seen a residual spirit turn and look at me. Granted, seeing a spirit at all is rare and is a wonderful thing to have that experience. But a poltergeist, for those of you who have means, opportunity to witness poltergeist phenomena, I highly recommend it because it is so fascinating and it's real. It does happen. It has been well documented. I've experienced it. Poltergeist. It's a German contractive word. It means noisy ghost or rattling spirit. And they're spirits that they have a ghost and sometimes they have voices. They tend to throw things and levitate objects, sometimes heavy objects. They're the ones who will stack up books or move an armoire or a bureau up against a door and block the door from opening.
So
They do things
feel,
like that.
How did you feel when you saw one? Like, did you feel the energy was taken out of your body, and then that was just like you just felt exhausted after that point? Like, do they have that component to them that they can
Dude, that has happened to people. Well, there we get into that.
I think we hit that. I think we hit the limit
demonic.
There we go. There we go. There we go.
That case, was it a human spirit? And I go, yep, all of the above. It was all of those things. Yes, and I personally didn't feel drained or had any exposure to a poltergeist spirit. And I've had several. No, I didn't feel depleted afterwards. There was a demonic case that I felt really drained after that. That was Edmond, Oklahoma, in 2010. Had a lot of cases in 2010. But the house, the Marin's house, it was in Coventry, Rhode Island. No, I didn't feel that. The lady of the house certainly was. I had to adjust my camera, and I never felt depleted by it. I was just fascinated. Sometimes on edge, sometimes leery of it. Always kept my composure, but I was just downright fascinated about this activity. So I didn't feel drained, depleted at all. Just sleepless.
So
when I was in the house.
So speaking of demonic and stuff like that, something that's really been taking off, kind of like the Conjuring house, has been Annabelle, the doll Annabelle, who is currently stationed at the Warren Museum. Have you ever investigated Annabelle, or do you have an idea? What obviously the theory is Annabelle is a demon. Have you ever investigated Annabelle, and have you ever met Annabelle?
I've met Annabelle and that I've seen the doll a number of times. I've never touched it. I wouldn't do that myself. That's why our friend Zach Bagans ran into some controversy with John Zaffis, who is the son-in-law of Ed and Lorraine, the late Ed and Lorraine Warren. And Zach Bagans was investigating Annabelle, but he had strict instructions not to touch the doll because Zach did sneak a little touch of the doll. So he was, John Zaffis, who has custody of the doll, was not thrilled with that. So they had a falling out. I am personally not afraid of the Annabelle doll or any haunted doll, even though they may look weird and they're menacing. But I wouldn't go to the extreme where I pick it up and challenge that. Menacing. Because that shows that I believe in it to a degree. If I have to go as far as to pick it up, say, hey, they're harmless here. Now, if some miscreant took the Annabelle doll or some haunted doll and tossed it to me and said, here, Carl, catch. I'd say, jerk, that. But I wouldn't feel that I was in danger. I'd be a little trepidatious about it, but
on that note, obviously the haunted dolls and stuff like that. What about the Dybbuk boxes? Have you ever been around a Dybbuk box? And what's your take on that kind of energy and items?
Again, and even more so, perhaps the Dybbuk box it's pretty imaginary. It's if you dread it, it has power. I don't think a spirit can be entrapped in a box. Although I know somebody that a spirit, a malevolent spirit, he shies away from calling it demonic, but there's a spirit he had trapped in the box. And I have a borderline belief in that. I know there's something to it. Just maybe it's been so believed. This man went through a phase where he was practicing black magic Supposedly, a spirit is trapped in this box. The box is sealed with chains and wax. And it's rather heavy. It's not a great big chest, but it's a box. And again, I wouldn't mess with it. I just don't think they're real, not literal. It's because they're dreaded. And it was actually cooked up for a story and a television show about a Dybbuk box. It's not an ancient Jewish tradition. It just has an old Jewish name to it, Hebrew name, Dybbuk, which means demon, malevolent spirit. So I think there should be an annual Free Your Dybbuk Day. Just open up your Dybbuk boxes, let them go. Let them, if they're meant to come back, they'll come back. I probably shouldn't say that because some people really do that.
I think I just start a new tradition. That's a new tradition in the paranormal field.
Free Your Dybbuk Day. I can do that.
Free Your Dybbuk Day. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's a good ring to it.
It's got a ring to it. And it could be. And I'll tell you, folks, I'm going to start the tradition right now with the opening of my favorite Dybbuk box.
Yeah, especially March 21st of every year, International Free Your Dybbuk Day.
You who have Dybbuk boxes, this is the day to open it up, concurrent with the threshold of spring. Let them go. If they want to come back, if they're meant for you, they'll come back to you. Of course, that's rather irresponsible for me to say, isn't it? Because some people might open their Dybbuk box. Yeah, but I just don't. They don't bother me. They're concocted. They're a story.
I have
except there's one case. There's always an exception. There's always an exception.
I actually do have kind of an oddball question for you, and this is based on demonology.
It's an oddball topic.
Yeah, so as I watch a lot of these television programs, even like the YouTube ones and stuff like that, you always hear like the report like Lucifer himself is in this house. What's your take on that? Because I always take that with a grain of salt. I don't think if there is demonic entities out there that Lucifer is going to be a guy who would step foot in your house. I just don't think he has a time to do that. If he is the king of hell, he's busy punishing souls. He's not, he doesn't have the time in his day to come up and punish the living.
Well, Lucifer is not a boogeyman. To think that.
I like what he says. Then he goes.
I think Lucifer is an energy. It's he has
Lucifer comes into
no boundaries.
Yeah, I mean we don't know. These are names we apply.
Right.
Lucifer was not originally Satan anyway. There's a whole story, a whole etymology about how the name Lucifer became associated with the devil. Lucifer and Satan were two different beings. Satan was not even a proper name originally.
Yeah.
So you got to apply names to evil and personify evil. Because evil is easier to understand and avoid if we personify it, apply names to it.
Hollywoodize.
I've always liked the name
Hollywoodizing it.
His name could be Wyatt or Wyatt's child.
Child of Wyatt.
Yeah.
If you could look that up, ancient Arabic, Hebrew.
Louis is about to be an uncle, so it's funny that his brother's about to have a child. So I think it's all relevant.
Okay.
So, have you ever been injured from a demonic entity or from a spirit?
Emotional, yes. I've gotten a few punches and bruises that they weren't pronounced. They just were strange, like circular bruises that no one could explain. I got that, in fact, at historic Slater Mills site, built in 1793, the seat of the American Industrial Revolution. That's in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I was investigating there, and I came out with and I didn't bump into any of the old equipment on display. I just had some circular bruises on me that I could, like finger marks, but that's been the extent of it, nothing severe. I've had some very emotional, trying times associated with demonism, demonic paranormal investigation, but I can't say if that was supernatural or not. Just very profound experiences. Actually, we were talking a minute ago about Dybbuk boxes. Yes, I'm on the show right now.
We're famous.
Did you just say he was on the shitter right now?
She's on the show.
Yes,
right now.
yes.
Where does she live in?
I'm on a radio show right now, Christine. I've got a million. Yes, I've got a million people listening to
All
me.
right, fine. Did you read the 5 pages?
Yes, Christine, I'm on a show right now. I have to talk on the show.
Okay.
Okay.
The show.
Unless you want, do you want to say hello? Say hello.
Hello. How are you?
Hello.
I can't
We're doing
see you though.
wonderful.
I can't.
That's my landlady, Christine. I'm going to devote the rest of the show to talking about Christine because she's had a fascinating life. Yes, you are a fascinating person.
I know.
And now we know what happened to baby Jane.
Have being nice to me.
Oh, he is. Okay, my dear. I'll talk to you soon. I'll come back out and play with you. And Daddy,
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
I'll be back.
Louis, I gotta go. I gotta make some phone calls.
Okay.
Hey, Carl, nice to meet you, sir.
I'll show you something. I'll show you my Dybbuk box.
That's your Dybbuk box right behind you there?
Right. No, that's a big that's like a cabinet. This is my Dybbuk box. It's not as big as they look to you.
Yeah.
It's,
There's something is there something hidden in there that you're
well, I have some artifacts in here. I've had it closed for a while. I mean, are you ready for this? Let's see.
I'm ready for it.
Well, let's see. I have 2 bayberry scented candles. I shouldn't make those noises. And I have a coin collection in here. But it's just a little cabinet box. I think you'd make an excellent Dybbuk box.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's as close as I get to a Dybbuk box. I could make it into a Dybbuk box, I suppose, if I did some incantations over it.
Yeah.
Well, I could pray about it.
So I got another question. Yeah, I do have another question here for you from the fan.
Be glad to address. Yes.
Darren asked, "Have you ever gotten to a site before it began? This way. Have you ever gotten to a site before it even began and you backed out due to a bad feeling or anything?"
No, I haven't, because generally when I get that bad feeling, it's something I've been called into, and I will get a certain apprehension. That was associated with the case in Edmond, Oklahoma in 2010. Excuse me. There was my allergies coming in, but there was a young lady who is under possession in that house. She was sporadically going under possession, and fortunately it had reached the level of perfect possession where the host personality is just subdued. That's serious stuff. But I dreaded that to a degree because they were warning me about it. That people were saying she's calling you. She doesn't even know I'm on the phone with you, and she's talking to the chastiser. So, and Taliesin, her name was, and yeah, that was spooky. But I didn't keep. It would have looked bad. It would have made them.
And just a reminder, we are going through some audio stuff. Just bear with him. He will be back here.
So no, I did go to the house. Yeah. In Edmond, Oklahoma, and that was a very successful intervention. We did an expulsion. I and the team, we did an expulsion, which is like a lesser form of exorcism. But yeah, of course, just hearing about it, and people saying she knows when we're on the phone with you. We don't know how she knows that, but she knows, and so of course I had some apprehension about that, and it did. It was justified, that sense of dread. What she was going through, the way she would express this demonic entity. But it was successful. It was driven away from her. She did have some residue, impressions from this thing. I don't think you can go through such an ordeal and be totally over it. But, yeah, we did help her. I and the team.
Have you had any recent cases that you could talk about?
I have recent, and one we had my team, Paranormal, which is Elise Jamal Carlson and myself. We addressed a case. It was right here in Rhode Island, in Cranston and East Greenwich, Rhode Island, and that was Actually, it was documented. You could find out more about it by watching an episode. It was documented for the series A Haunting. I've been on 2 episodes of that, documenting cases in which I've been involved. And the subject was a police officer who was injured in the line of duty. He was actually shot at. And while he wasn't struck by the bullet, this bullet, where the shell went over his right ear and cost him, I think it was about 85% of his hearing in that ear. But as a somewhat pseudo benefit to that injury, he started hearing spirit voices. He tuned into a different frequency. He could hear spirit voices speaking to him. And of course, first called me in as a demonologist, and I went with my partner, Elise. We were thinking that I said, probably this is like a psychological. Disappointed his father.
Just a reminder, we are going through some audio issues. Just bear with them.
She detected voices. Now, everything that Joe Mignano, I'll give his name because it was on televised. Joe Mignano and Danica Mignano. We played back the interview we had with them, and when Elise was playing that, we started to hear this whisper. He did first. And we augmented the volume. And what Joe told us, this spirit, it was like a childish personality, but obviously malicious, telling him to go kill yourself. You're worthless, Joe. Whatever he said, the spirit was saying to him, came out in that recording. Now, he's no ventriloquist. That came out in the recording. So suddenly we switched gears and wait a minute. This is not just psychological. He's got something going on there. And that episode was rated out of the 11 seasons of The Haunting. That was rated #1 episode for viewership and comments, and it actually won an award. I didn't make any money from it, but it was a very popular episode. And I think that was because of the psychological aspect. That it ties in parapsychology with psychology. It bridges that gap. So I think that's why it was so popular. But that was a recent big case we had. We've been to people's homes and helped them try to evaluate their haunts since then. And I've been to a few on my own. But it's more like being consulted. I do a lot on the internet and through messages, email. That's what my basic investigations are currently. But sometimes we will travel and go to places. I've been a number of times to the Conjuring House to investigate. I've been there. Well, I first went there in August and September of 1973. And beginning 5 years ago, I started when it was under new ownership. I started going back there. So many times I have been to the Conjuring House, that house on Round Top Road, and conducted investigations there. Had an interesting experience. As I just mentioned, I was there in 1973. I was 18 years of age. And I remember when Corey and Jen Heinzen had come into new ownership of the home, they wanted me there when they had the closing of the house because my personal history is tied up in that house. Mirror, and we in this mirror. Okay, and in this, I got a call coming in, but I can't take it now. But in this mirror, I original mirror. The movie The Conjuring was based on. They had that mirror here then, and the successive owner, Norma Sutcliffe, she kept it, and that mirror still in the corner, that big rectangular mirror. So I went up to look at her. I haven't seen been some years since I've looked in this mirror, and I saw myself as I appeared when I was 8 years of age. I was 18 years old again. In that, my reflection was moving with me. I had my modern red polo shirt on, but by gum, I looked at myself. I said, I look 18. I mean, what's going on here? This is not a trick of the light. I blinked, looked again. I said, I mean, if this is some hallucination, it's a pretty vivid one. I wasn't emotionally tied up in it until I saw myself when I was 18. So I started to call for somebody else to come back. And I said, no. Corey, Jen, please come on in here. And then I said, if they come in, I'm sure it's going to stop. And I just vindicate this. I want to prove to myself it's real. I said, never mind. So for the next 4 minutes, I just did my reflection. Yeah, I looked like a young guy. I looked like a teenager. Had long shoulder-length blonde hair. Had my sideburns. Just looked younger. Boy, what a letdown it was when I saw myself in the big mirror in the bathroom, saying, "Oh yeah, things have changed." But I've never been able to replicate that effect. I've looked at that mirror, and when I've been in the house under all kinds of conditions, especially bright sunlight coming in, which it was that day, and for no reason, under no conditions could I look at myself and say I looked younger. And other people have tried it. Mike Ricksecker, who's a journalist and has his own show and is an author, he's been seen a few times on Ancient Aliens. Mike Ricksecker was there investigating with me. It's actually his investigation he was documenting. And he looked in that mirror, and his features started to distort. They blurred and altered, but he didn't turn younger. Hey, he wasn't there when he was 18. So I have to connect that with my past history at the house, that I had been there. And apparently I made an impression to the house. People say the house is a portal, or is a series of portals. Yeah, that would have my experience. Oh yes, I can just fond memories go on, and I do.
Yeah, that house predates so much of civilized American history, though. That house was built in 1786, you said?
1736 is the date we have for its finalized construction. It may have been added on to some of basic construction, as far as we've been able to ascertain, goes back to 1736. The foundation was constructed, and some of the walls put up in, I believe, 1716. So you got 30 years difference there, 20 years difference there. But the actual construction started the very early 1700s. So of course it's going to have some memories printed in it, as we were talking about.
I believe
it's got a personality. I don't think the house is haunted as much as the house is the haunting.
Yeah, that's a limestone basement too, correct?
Yes, it is, and we know about resonance and certain materials capturing emanations. It's got limestone. It's got probably some radium in it. The house is a psychic battery. Unlike what is claimed, I don't think it's the most haunted house in New England or in America. But yeah, of course, being that age and having that many families have resided there, yeah, it's a haunted house. You can capture me. You can invoke memories from the house's past, and sometimes they will answer. Now, the Perrins family, who owned that house in the 1970s, they had an outright haunting that would almost draw them out of it. But they were susceptible people. You look at the personalities. Carolyn Perrin, the lady of the house, she had her 5 daughters there with her. She was very mystically inclined and impressionable. So yes, of course, things happened more than when they were there. I actually don't believe the house was haunted before the parents moved in 1970, the end of 1970. They moved into that house, and I just don't think it was that haunted a house before them. If anything, probably something happened there. Old houses do speak back.
Yeah.
When I was employed at historic Slater Mill in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, you had the Slater Mill proper, constructed in 1793. You had the Sylvanus Brown House, also known as Memory Cottage, built on the campus and the grounds. That was built in 1758. And you had the Stone Wilkinson Mill, stone with magnetic properties and quartz. Cumberlandite, which is magnetic. Some of the stones from Cumberlandite. That was built between 1810 and 1811. So you got these 3 old buildings. I'd be surprised if there wasn't some kind of haunting, especially considering the early industrial accidents that happened with the rudimentary machinery. Spinning machinery that was advanced for its time and innovative, but people got pulled into these machines and mauled. It was just part of the business. So there were some grisly deaths there and maimings and, quarreling about finances. So also, Slater Mill site is situated next to the Blackstone River. You've got this constant flow of running water. Something this time of year is like white surging water. So that creates a battery. You can actually gauge that with a detecting device like a Glassmaster. You'll get a reading there because the running water generates an electric current. So this place is made for haunting. I would have been surprised and disappointed if it wasn't. But I did turn out I was employed at a haunted site, which delighted me. And so there are reasons. Sometimes you can center in some probabilities for why a site is haunted. Other times you just don't know. Why are some old structures not subject to paranormal activity? Don't have the residents ghost. Don't know. Often when they're older houses, they do have some kind of presence to them.
Yeah.
Especially if a lot of families or a lot of people have worked in those places.
Yeah, but on that note, I'm going to let you go. I think I'm going to wrap the show up for tonight. I do.
Feels like we're just getting started.
Yeah, I do want to re-intervene with you later on, and I do want to have you and Keith on. I think that'd be amazing. Just to meet Keith this way too. And I
As
really
long as he doesn't keep interrupting me, that will be fine.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Yeah, it would be a great show with him.
I think that'd be fun, man. I have nothing but respect for you guys and everything you guys do, and I try to follow up as much as I can with you guys, just see what you guys are doing and what you guys are up to. You guys are definitely probably the two most insightful people, definitely in the paranormal field. I mean,
thank you so much.
You guys are just in that perfect corner of America where everything's so old, and you guys are, not saying that stuff isn't old in Wisconsin, but like 1700s isn't here. You know what I mean? So.
Yes. Yep. And we've always got something ongoing. Sometimes we're in between cases, but we do a lot of consulting over internet, and Facebook sometimes. And so it's usually talking to people. We can't always afford to fly out to a site. We'd like to be able to. And that was one advantage of doing television shows. It was that the production company would fly us out there to the site and send me out places. I went to New Orleans, Louisiana, twice in 2 weeks in 2010 for filming of The Haunted Show. It's called The Haunted. And those were very interesting experiences, of course. It was a precursor to A Haunting, but The Haunted was on the Animal Planet.
Okay.
So, yeah, please do have me back soon. I'll be ready. I get engaged in the conversations, and it seems like we just started. I'll keep my Dibbit box closed.
Okay. Bring it with you.
If somebody put a talisman in there, some haunted object, it'd probably be a bona fide Dibbit box. It looks like it.
Maybe Zap
It's easily transportable.
Maybe Zap is going to borrow something.
Zaphis, the haunted collector, or Zach Bagans. He's got to have something around.
Yeah.
I had a good association with Zach Bagans. I know he's got the histrionics and he's overblown. He gets a lot of criticism, but I personally had good experiences with Zach Bagans.
He got a lot of flack. He caught a lot of flack with the Destination Fear show. Dakota, Tanner. Actually, I have a friend that went to school at the same college as Tanner. But they didn't like know each other, but they knew who they were. They're both in athletics and stuff. But that got really nasty there for a while because Nick Garoff, who was also a part of Ghost Adventures 2 for a while, piped up, and they all kind of ganged up on him, which we don't know. There's always three sides of a story. We don't know what happened. We just got to take for who they are, I guess, and what we've known. So
Nick Garoff was quite disgruntled and disenfranchised by his association with Ghost Adventures, and I try not to be biased. I try not to listen to too much, but I have to hear some of it, you know, and they all have their stories, and there's always a germ of truth to them. At least
I really like that Project Fear, Destination Fear series because they're closer to my age, so it's just kind of fun to see what they're doing. And Because
Right.
I'm 30. I'm 31 right now. We'll be 32 in April. But yeah, I just it's kind of fun seeing people my age engage in this now too. So like the paranormal baton is still being passed on the correct way, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, the baton is its past. Perhaps it will resurface with a title, but same concept.
Yeah,
That would be nice.
There's a lot of fabulous shows out there though on YouTube. Overnight is one you were on, but yeah, Sam and Kobe, Project Fear. A lot of those guys are doing a really good job, and I hope they keep it on YouTube too. I don't want to see them go national. I like to see them do their own thing and be uncut.
Right. Yeah. Now, where the future of paranormal research is going, I don't know. I think the J.B. Rhine Center has it pretty much on track with what their work they do there, the research, legitimate research. I tend to do things my own way, going on my experience. But yeah, as far as the entertainment value, I see a trend towards people being more interested in UFOs now and alien presence.
Yeah.
That seems to be the current.
But Jack Osborne on his podcast, he's always talking about UFOs and stuff like that. So
yeah, it's hard not to tie them in, at least on some level, to demonology, because both fields deal with the usually unseen, sometimes glimpsed and unknowable origins of these beings. They're extraterrestrials and ultra-terrestrials.
Yep.
I just like to experience more of them. And shadow people, and talk all night about shadow people, but no answers.
Yeah, skinwalkers.
They're not revealing.
Bigfoot.
Yeah,
these
things have been around. These things have been around for so many decades, and before the television shows popularized them. It's there's something to it, definitely. These nether beings, these ultras.
Yeah. It's amazing though, like the history and like the documentation of stuff like that. I think that's what makes it so fascinating. Is like paranormal has been documented for thousands of years.
It has been. There's it can't be all imagination. Plus, now with detecting equipment so advanced in photography, of course, it's easier to stage and fake evidence, but you have to know your source. But it's been so documented. Of course, there's something to it. Be a pretty boring world if there wasn't.
I agree with that, 100%. But all righty. Well, on that note, Carl, I'm gonna let you go, and I will reconvene with you shortly. We'll see if we can line something up with Keith, and we'll hammer out the next show.
Yeah, we'll do that. That'll be even more entertaining. Yeah, get my brother's perspective on it. Now, the difference is my brother, we're both demonologists. He is a religious demonologist. I'm a secular demonologist, but we're both aiming for the same thing, discovery and helping people with their spiritual issues. Okay, then, thank you so much. And
thank you,
for this
Kyle,
opportunity. You are welcome. And
definitely amazing guy to talk to. Every time I get the opportunity to chomp at the bit. So thank you again.
Yeah. And Feliz Pascal, happy Easter, and hopefully I'll talk with you shortly after the holiday.
Sounds good, Carl. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye now.
And that was Carl Johnson. You could look up his book, Shadow Realm Demonology Handbook. You can get that on Amazon, or you can reach out to Carl and he can sign you a copy and send it to you via PayPal. He was on season 1 of Ghost Hunters. He's been on various amounts of TV shows. You can see Carl in action on Overnight. That was probably the most recent television show he did. Yeah, main stage one. Overnight that investigation was fantastic. The guys did a really good job, and if you guys like the comedian Matt Rife, he's a part of that. It's always fun to get into the paranormal. Hopefully we do more shows like this coming up. But on that note, thank you guys very much for tuning in. And if you popped in about halfway through, you can check out the earlier part of the show on Spotify and Apple or wherever you get your podcast. So thank you very much for tuning in.